Safety data sheets, or SDSs, are provided by the manufacturer for all hazardous chemicals and substances used in your facility. These SDSs are for your use in the event you want more information on the chemicals you're using in the workplace. Generally, safety data sheets are maintained in an office, in other designated areas, or in an online database, so if you need more information, ask your manager or supervisor. What information is available in an SDS? The SDSs have 16 information sections that conform with the requirements of the GHS of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals Standard. The 16 sections include identification of chemical, hazard identification, composition, information on ingredients, first aid measures, firefighting measures, accidental release measures, handling and storage, exposure controls, personal protection, physical and chemical properties, stability and reactivity, toxicological information, ecological information, disposal considerations, transport information, regulatory information, other information including date of preparation or last revision. Generally, the information in an SDS is much more technical than is normally provided on labels. While all sections of an SDS contain important information, 4 sections you need to really understand from a practical standpoint and day-to-day use of a chemical are first aid, accidental release measures, handling and storage, and disposal considerations. In the event of accidental contact or exposure to a chemical, Section 4, First Aid, will provide you or a doctor helpful first aid and treatment information to reduce the likelihood of injury or illness from exposure to the chemical. Section 6, Accidental Release Measures, will provide information on personal protective equipment, PPE, you should wear when using a chemical. This section will also provide you with steps you should take to contain or clean up a chemical to prevent environmental harm if it is accidentally spilled. Section 7, Handling and Storage, will provide you information on how to store chemicals to reduce the possibility of fire, combustion, or cross-contamination with other chemicals that could create a harmful atmospheric condition or harm to the workplace or environment. Section 12, Disposal Considerations, provides valuable information on the proper disposal of used chemical containers or chemicals no longer used to prevent injury or illness to people handling the disposal of chemicals, as well as potential harm to the environment. One last important note about labeling in SDSs. Under the HAZCOM standard, chemicals used in the workplace, which are purchased from local retail stores, such as cleaning supplies, detergents, and similar chemicals, require you to obtain a safety data sheet and affix proper labeling before they can be used in the workplace. Usually your manager or supervisor will obtain the SDS at the store where the chemical was purchased or directly from the manufacturer. These chemicals must also be properly labeled by the manufacturer, and everyone should read and follow the instructions and warnings printed on these chemicals. Remember, even chemicals purchased at a local retail store can be hazardous if not used, handled, stored, and disposed of properly. Again, SDSs are available to anyone asking for the information. As in any operation, if you have a question about the chemicals, substances, and materials you're working with, or you're not sure how to safely use, handle, store, and dispose of these items, ask questions. Knowledge truly is power, especially when it comes to your safety and health. Now let's take another minute to discuss personal protective equipment, or PPE. Most chemicals require the use of some form of protection. What protection is required is listed both on the container label and in the SDS for that product. Don't guess about what PPE is required. Find out the proper protection and use it every time. Before we wrap this up, keep in mind all chemicals can be potentially harmful. Now let's recap by by reviewing some universal safety rules for the safe use and handling of chemicals. Only use chemicals you have been trained to use and for the task they are designed to be used for. If you need training and instruction on a chemical you have not used before, ask your manager or supervisor. Make sure your chemical containers have the correct label before using. Make sure your work area is adequately ventilated. Wear personal protective equipment, PPE, required for the safe use of the chemical. Know where the closest 15-minute continuous flow eye wash station is to your work area. If you have skin or eye contact or inhale chemical vapors or mists, follow the first aid information in the SDS. Clean up any chemical spill following the instructions on the label and in the SDS. Store your chemicals properly. Follow the instructions in the SDS. Report immediately all physical exposure to a chemical and spills to a manager or supervisor. Thank you for listening and watching. Take the information you learned in this program and put it to work on every job, every day. Again, remember, if you want to learn more about the chemicals with which you work, ask your manager or supervisor for a safety data sheet for those particular chemicals. Read and follow the directions on all labels, and of course, always wear proper personal protective equipment when it's required. Use your experience and good judgment and take time for safety. It's worth it. Thank you.